Okay, so no one's mentioned it yet, so I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the encouragement. I really, really appreciate you watching the videos and trying to understand the theory behind the astrotometric translation in the hypertime shadows. I mean, that's a huge validating thing for astrotometry, and this is a theory that I have been working on for quite a long time, and to see it playing out in the cosmos is very exciting. I wasn't expecting, to be quite frank, I wasn't expecting the particular implications that the sun-grazing comet is hinting at about the nature of our space-time. I mean, I had really no idea how the folds in time relate to the nature of the photon. I was in Einstein's frame set thinking that the teleparallel gravitation definitely implied something about the nature of the construction of outer space with respect to how the photon works with time and space. But I really didn't get to understand that until I made the connection between the sun-grazing comet and the active region on the sun, and that it's a hyperdimensional transformation that relates to the underlying carrier. And that really connected things with my theory. No one's mentioned yet, as I said at the beginning of the video, that the implications are that the sunspot cycle is caused by asteroid belts that the solar system moves through. And this brings up another big issue with astrotometry, and that's the issue of cause and effect. When things come into the solar system, there's a hypersymmetric relationship between things that are happening up there and things that are happening down here. And that is on such a subtle level, that is on such a level that we as individual parts of the big piece down here don't connect with. And so that's the kind of the more shamanistic, kind of the more mystical school that looks at these larger cycles through time and through history and tries to understand how they relate to the movement of the cosmos. And I've completely ignored the implications of astrotometry on astrology, specifically because astrotometry is the science part of it. I also have another part of it one of the other things that I want to renovate besides science is astrology. And so I'm going to be at some point doing my own version of astrology, and these may end up specific volumes in a book, in a series of books about astrotometry and astrotometry's implications on the various disciplines. But I wanted to mention one of the concerns that I have about this relationship that the sunspot cycle has to the asteroid belts. And that is that if there is some sort of need a good word for it, conservation of the amount of energy that happens in a particular cycle, or that exists in a particular belt, we may be in for some interesting times, because, as a lot of you may realize, solar cycle 24 is overdue. And if this represents in the structure of the incoming asteroid belt that would be representing solar cycle 24, or would be associated with it, a particular cluster of objects, that in other words, if the distance between the belts, if you think about how mechanical things would interact, the astrotometry seems to indicate that the spin of the asteroid, the way that the asteroid is spinning, has something to do with the polarity of the spot on the sun. That's the theory right now, is that the reason that the asteroids are in belts in the first place is because some of them are spinning one way and others are spinning another way, and when they collide with each other, they naturally, over time, variegate into these belts that spin in opposite directions. And so there's as they enter the solar system through time, the spin is that magnetic knot that we see, the polarity of the magnetic knot that we see on the sun, and the distribution of those spins through the belts is the reason that we have the polarity, or at least an associated factor. I keep saying reason, and I'm just about ready to take those videos that I just did down. And I know that a lot of you are going, those are your best videos, those are your best videos. But the reason is because they're wrong. I've used words in the wrong way. The concept of cause and effect in astrotometry has to change. And I keep using words like cause when I know that something is hypersymmetric. There's a hypersymmetry to the nature of cause and effect. And so you can't say cause, because in a sense, the causal chain is not what we think of it as in 3 dimensions. When you talk about anything that's outside the Earth's orbit, when you talk about anything that is outside of that place over which the frequency of the carrier wave of hydrogen, oxygen, and all of our elements folds. That's what that space is. That's a fold in the carrier wave that creates that matter on Earth in astrotometry. And so when you talk about something that's out there, you have to talk about it hypersymmetrically as it relates to the supersymmetric things that happen here and the nature of nature. And so that, I mean, you have to respect that, because it's when you say cause and effect, when you're talking about celestial things, it's kind of tricky, because there's a there's a relationship there that is supersymmetric, and this is what the discovery implies, and it's hard to wrap your head around that, and hard to stop saying that the sun-grazing comet causes the frequency feedback in the common carrier that produces the perception of the active region on the sun. That's not really what's happening exactly, because it has to do with the Earth too. And so there's the notion of cause and effect. You could say that the active region creates the comet. You could say that you could turn it around and say the comet is that spot on the sun, because that is technically what is required for the common carrier to have the comet manifest in the first place. And so what cause and effect is has to be rewritten. Those videos are seriously flawed with respect to actually what I know, and it's just that I have a difficult time training myself to accommodate the understanding that I have developed on this.